Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Still in Beta. Sorry, we are here. And yeah,
Hello.
this is our sort of first, second episode, depending on where you start your numbering. I always start at 0. Other people start at 1. I don't know. They're weird. I am Roman. With me is William and Sean. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
We're
wonderful.
back.
Yes, and you're still not imaginary people in my head. I'm very happy about that.
Well, not these voices, anyway.
No.
Well, before we really dive into it, I just want to say thank you to all the people who have sat through our last 50 minutes of talking about flight simulation in 2020. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your feedback and glad you enjoyed or disliked or whatever. And we hope we can continue with this podcast on a more regular basis, maybe every Wednesday, something like that. So we're not quite sure on that because obviously we're still in beta.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you like the content.
Oh my goodness, we use the word content. Why does everybody always say content? It's a video, it's a podcast. It's some
Podcast world. Gotta get into these things.
Oh god. Okay, completely different topic. Speaking of topics, today we have a bit of a different format. We are 3 people. We have basically no way of agreeing on anything, so we decided to bring our own topic each, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, William, you might want to lead the way with something that is very useful for people before they disappear in our rounds, basically.
Okay, yeah. So I thought it would be really good to talk about some stuff with Flight Sim if you are new to Flight Sim, or if you've been around on Flight Sim for a while but kind of sort of just messing around with it, not really getting into it. And I thought it would be a good idea to look over a few products that are great starter packs, I think. Those people that are not quite sure whether they want to keep going with it. As we talked about last week, it can be quite an expensive hobby. You can kind of get sucked in and end up spending all your money. But there are some great products out there which are really good for people who are perhaps just starting out in Flight Simulator X and also in P3D. And I can also kind of touch on stuff for X-Plane as well.
No, you cannot, because you don't know anything about X-Plane.
Well, I have a limited knowledge.
Like none. But yeah, we can probably chip in and talk a little bit about the X-Plane part as well, and tell everybody why X-Plane is so superior. At least Sean can do that.
Gladly, and I think it goes without saying, really, but okay.
Oh, I don't know. The debate
Here
rages on.
Well, okay.
We have to have a poll one day.
So what you're saying is you're new to Flight Sim, you want something better than the freeware stuff that comes with it, or you can download from places like Riku or something, and
Absolutely.
then get started with them without breaking the bank.
Yeah, so if you're wanting to move away from those Project Airbuses or TDS 757s, then I think a great starting pack is the Quality Wings 757. It's quite an old product. It was originally designed for Flight Simulator 2004 and FSX quite a number of years ago, but it has been updated to work in P3D version 4. I doubt it will be made to work in version 5. But if you are in FSX, FSX Team Edition, or on P3D versions 3 and 4, then it's a really good product. It's quite easy on the frame rates. It's not over intensive. It's got a decent working FMC. Everything tends to work. It's got a nice virtual cockpit. Plenty of liveries out there for all your favorites. Supported at MetroAir. Little plug. And
well, that is kind of sponsored, but the plug on the plane is not sponsored. Just to add that.
Yeah, I should say it's not sponsored. This is just my view, and you look at the pricing on it, it's about $15-16, which I think is quite a cheap amount if you're just sort of getting into this. You don't break the bank with $15, and you can kind of get a good feel for how the plane works, how the FMCs work. You can do your route planning on SimBrief or whatever else you use, and then download your flight plans and install them into it. And it all works really well, and I still use it now. There are other 757s on the market that are considerably more expensive. So, yeah, but I think the 7.5 from Quality Wings, really good starting pack. Also, if you're not perhaps a fan of the Boeings, you can also maybe look at the Aerosoft Airbuses. So they've got the 319, 20, 21. Oh, sorry, and also the 318. And you can either buy them as a bundle. You can also buy them separately, but I think you get a better deal if you buy the bundle, the full pack. I think
I'm not entirely sure if you get really that much better of a deal, but you can just buy the A3 2021 package or 19 and 18. And
yeah,
usually,
you get a
if you
better
have
deal.
one of them, the others aren't that different. I mean, once you're in an Airbus, you're always in an Airbus, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, once you're in the front, you sort of struggle to sometimes work out what plane you're in. In my old days, I've had pilots say that they were flying different airplanes to what we were really in, which often caused a bit of alarm to the passengers. But there we go. Yeah, so you can get the Aerosoft. It's a little bit more pricey. It's not quite as cheap as the Quality Wings. You're gonna struggle to get anything else kind of that kind of quality and detail for that price. But the Aerosoft's another good starting point.
Yeah, I think you're looking at like $40, something like that.
No, it's more than that.
More than that? Okay.
Well, if you get the professional versions, there are some. There are the, I don't know what you call it. There's your sort of regular version, if you like. They're a little bit
Yes, okay, I see. So,
less.
yeah, I think I got it through an upgrade fee, which was ridiculously low, so I never knew the real price.
And sometimes they do sales as well, so watch out for those sales. I think I
Generally,
bought
good
mine.
advice for any beginner. There are lots of sales in the sim world, except for PMDG maybe. If you want something, maybe worth waiting a month or two, and then there might be a sale for it. You never know.
Especially around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New
Easter,
Year,
yeah,
Easter, those
definitely.
times you tend to get a bit of a sale on. So yeah, the Aerosoft kind of ranges probably price-wise, I think maybe from sort of 40 to maybe up to about $80, depending on which bundle you get. But they're really good quality. Again, there are other products available that are considerably more expensive, but I think the Aerosoft is a really good grounding for the Airbus. It's a really easy plane to fly. I mean, for me, actually, I struggled to fly the Airbus for years, and I kind of always avoided it. I think that's because I just didn't really get involved in it. But I have to say, I added the Aerosoft in when I got my new computer, and I really like it now. I've been flying it quite a lot recently. It's really easy to fly.
Yeah, one
And
thing I would like to say about these Aerosoft Airbuses, I mean, despite my quote-unquote dislike for Airbus, which is basically disappearing as well over time now, I have every Airbus basically under the simulated sun, and I do really like the Aerosoft version because they sit in the middle of being a good entertainment product. They work very well, they look very good. The frames aren't killed by it, so it's very good on a budget system as well if you don't have the highest end of high-end computers. So you will still be able to run them with like really good settings. They will still look very good. You don't need to worry about any extra shaders, unlike with more expensive products. Leave it at that for now. So even though I have other more detailed models, I really enjoy flying these every now and then. So I just mix it up. Sometimes I fly FS Labs, sometimes I fly X-Plane, sometimes I fly the Airosofts. And they're really... they're not bad. So just because you don't spend $200 on another Airbus product, let's say FS Labs, then that doesn't mean you get bad quality. It's really good quality. Again, not sponsored, just personal opinion.
And Aerosoft are also keep updating their product too. There was
Yeah, but they kind of charge you all the time for it.
no, they just did an update a few weeks ago, and that wasn't charged.
Okay, yeah, I meant more like you had the other version of that Airbus, and then you need to buy an update for that, and then a V4 update. So somehow there's always an update involved once it's a little bit more major, and I don't really know why. Other plane makers kind of got there for free.
I think that's probably the topic of an entire episode on its own.
I don't get that. How can you charge for an update? Unless, I mean, I guess unless you're expanding its capability. I don't know. It seems to me that if it's something you bought and it needs to be modified to work with an updated version of the sim, we can charge for that. I don't know how I feel about that.
I guess it's all down to how much work is it, because these people who do that want to be paid, obviously. And if it's multiple months of work, then it may be okay. And I remember the upgrade fee from version 3 to, or P3D version 3 to version 4 wasn't high. Actually, I bought it because I found out how cheap it was compared. But if you buy them new, they're more expensive, and then you never know, will there be an upgrade fee? Will you be able to upgrade in the first place? You never really know. Yeah, that's the same for every payware aircraft you buy. You never know how much you will have to spend on upgrading it over time. That's something that's relatively new to our world. We didn't have to worry about upgrades all the time in FS 2004, for example.
No, or even FSX in the early days, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
In those early days. But yeah, so just to sort of get back onto the topic.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
We've already descended into chaos. Roman brings up a good point about the aerosoft, and also to the same extent the Quality Wing 7.5. They both work really well on sort of older systems, and I know everyone in the flight sim world doesn't necessarily have the most up-to-date computers. I myself, as I say, only just got a new one that can work anything with any real effort. But prior to that, I was struggling on Flight Sim 9, and yeah, but the airsoft, the Quality Wings, no massive performance hits, I don't think, from what I've seen, and from what a lot of people are saying. And also, if you are new to them and you've never had the opportunity to fly them with the using the FMSs or the FMCs, plenty of videos out there on YouTube and plenty of helps in various forums that can sort of detail the step-by-step procedures to filling all the FMC stuff out and planning the routes and getting airborne. So there's lots of support out there. So that's what I thought I'd bring to the table today for that. And if we flip it over to the X-plane side, as I say, I'm not an X-plane user. Don't have all that stuff there, but the Zibo 737, I'm told and have seen from Sean, is a great plane, and it's free.
Oh, that's definitely
free. And everyone likes free.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a freebie.
That's definitely a big selling point for the Zibo and X-Plane in general. It really shines, and it competes with other 737 models, I would think.
Well, actually, I would say it's arguably one of the and the thing is when you start X-Plane, I don't know. I'd say as a beginner, you get the 737-800 in X-Plane by default, which comparatively to any other flight sims default aircraft is fantastic on its own. However, the Zibo mod takes it a step further, which has actually been in development, continuously in development, and that's one that's probably always going to be in beta, as they always just find ways to make it better.
But they don't charge you for it.
No, and I don't think they could, just based on the fact that it's pretty much borrowed from the base 737-800 from X-Plane with some modifications. Now, those modifications, I will say, do slowly begin to hinder performance on the flight sim itself, as it adds more functionality. So your frame rates might, depending on your PC, slowly degrade a bit. But generally, if you have a normal, good working flight sim computer, you'll be fine. 100% free. And now there's some controversy, I suppose, within X-Plane community as regards to the variants of the quote-unquote Zibo. Because you have the 737-800 that Zibo made, and then you have the ultimate 700 and 900 variants, and then there's another group doing the maxes. And I actually know there's a 600 variant as well, 600 variant, and I think that's made by the same people that are doing the maxes. And I don't know what their group is called. It's the 737 guys. I don't know. And then there's some drama about who stole what from who to make this or that. But either way, they're all free. They're all available. Generally, they all work. Zibo updates every 6 hours, so you always have a brand new version if you want. Yeah. And as far as payware entering, which kind of like you guys were saying about the Aerosofts and the $15 757 buy-in, Uh, there ain't nothing that cheap for X-Plane. Now, the Tolis A319 is a reasonable price.
Often on sale.
Yeah, their 321 is not. Their 321 hasn't gone on sale since it's gone out, and that's $80. And I'm sorry, but I won't refuse to pay that for that airplane. But I know you
You're
can wait
missing
on that.
out.
And the thing is, I'm sure it's a great airplane, but $80 for one airplane. This is my problem with this whole thing. Is the Aerosoft, you get the 319 and the 320, or is that what it is for the $40?
You get the 320 and the 321, or the 318 and the 319. So the
Okay.
first package I mentioned is a better deal, actually, because the 318 is a bit, most people don't ever use it.
So you're getting the two airplanes for less than the price of one airplane, an X-plane.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true, in fact.
And here's the problem with X-plane: not one person really makes a lineup. You've got the 319 and the 321 from Tolis, and they don't sell them in a package deal that gives you a discount. And then you have the Flight Factor 320 or the Jar Design 320, neither of which make another variant of the Airbus, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think. Jar Design makes the 330,
yeah.
but and the 330 as
Oh,
well.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Again, no package put together with a discount. Uh, there's no cheap way to get involved and get multiple airplanes. So I do like that about Aerosoft. They put together a few airplanes for you, a couple here, a couple there, and you still only pay what 50 US, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood, depending on where you buy it.
Depending if you get the regular version or the professional version.
Which, okay, whatever
I'm
that
not
means.
really sure what the difference is between them. I haven't really delved too deep into that, but
probably the price tag.
Yeah, the price tag does seem to be the only obvious thing, but I'm sure there is other things in there as well.
Yeah, so if for the beginner simmer, maybe the 319 because it's around 40 to $50 somewhere in there, and it's not too bad, and it's a good airplane, great on the frames, and it has come a long way. While I don't think that Tolis 319 is finished, mainly because there's a screen inside their menu that says this is future, so it's still in beta.
Still in beta, yeah.
Still in beta. That's unusual.
Yeah, and that's so, and I'm sure nobody from Tolis is listening, but my thing is, you can't sell me a 321 for $80 when the 319 hasn't been 100% finished. Like, I get future updates for future functionality, but it's not there. So why am I going to buy another airplane for more money from you if you haven't necessarily proven to me that the 319 is done yet? And that's a problem, I think. So if you're going to buy an aircraft for the first time, you've got your options in X-plane. The 319, you'll pay about $50 for. If you're a Boeing guy, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going kind of guy. You don't have to spend any money, and you can have like upwards of 10 different variants, including Maxes, more I guess than 10, somewhere in that neighborhood, of airplanes for free. So you won't have to pay anything if you just love Boeings. And now, if you are looking to up your simulation in the Airbus world, the Flight Factor 320 is in a league of its own. It's tough on the frames, which I think will be better in Vulcan. It's already better in Vulcan Beta, but I know it doesn't really work yet. But it loads up a lot better, and the frame rates don't take the hit. Now, I know that background processes probably aren't working for that aircraft yet, so you really don't get a very good. It's not flyable in Vulcan, but regardless, it's tough on the frames unless you got a decent computer, and I think that'll be fixed in the future with the Vulcan enhancement. So I would avoid that aircraft until you're ready to blow $90, and but once you do, it works.
And it did come on sale recently every now and then, so you may want to wait a little bit and you might get it for 70 or something.
Yeah, and X-Plane Store is doing the flash sales right now, so you never know. You never know, it might show up for a reduced price. I can almost promise you that 321 will not show up in that flash sale. But I do believe technically the 320 from Flight Factor is technically still in beta. Not because of the Vulcan, but I don't think they ever said this is a done airplane. But
yes, they did. They did. It was just recently they said, well, we have version 1.0 or 0 now, and that's out of beta now. So yes, they still updating it, but I think that whole super long beta phase, which wasn't a secret as well, it was like a public beta. They just ended that, and now it's a finished product,
Well, there you go.
Okay, so
according to them.
I'd have no problem backing the 320 any day of the week for buying it. However, to lease, I'm just not comfortable spending that kind of money on the 321 based on my 319 experience. Not to say that's a bad airplane by any means. The 319 is great. I just flew it this morning. No complaints whatsoever about that airplane, other than the fact that it's not done, but they sold another one. I have a hard time coming to grips with that. But
Okay,
there it is.
very good points. I think the A319 is definitely worth its sale money. What annoys me a lot about it is the audio pack. You get an IAE audio pack integrated, but you need to buy serial separately. So why not just give us a package of the whole thing and don't worry about the sounds? That annoys me a little bit. But other than that, it's a really good plane. So the other point I would like to make is Airbus is Airbus. I mean, it's not always exactly the same, but if you have only the budget for one of them, and you say you have a very good computer, maybe go for the Flight Factor one because it's the most refined one. Let's say it like this. The
Fantastic
Tolease, the Tolease A321 is my personal favorite of them all. For whatever reason, I fly it a lot at the moment. But if you're sort of on a budgety computer that's a bit older, you may have frame rate issues. The 19 is very good, and it gives you probably 90% of the Flight Factor experience with ease, if not more. And it's cheaper.
Right. Now I can't speak to the jar design.
Say again?
What?
Oh, you could just go for the free Zebo, which is
Exactly, yeah.
perfect for that starter pack.
If you are on a budget or you're just getting into it, check out the Zebos. Now you're gonna have to learn how to fly a 737 if you've never really done it on a semi-study level platform. Maybe you're leaving FSX or whatever it is, and you've never done PMDG. You will have to sit down and learn how to do the FMCs and all the switches and dials, and don't forget the packs because I did.
There are lots of good YouTube videos these days, so you can just learn it from that and really put in the effort. It's worth it learning an aircraft like that.
You get a real sense of satisfaction when you can set all the FMC up and get the flight plan in and fly. You can follow it all and you can do a complete flight and you land at the other end and you just know that you've done it properly and you've had that great realism experience and been immersive. That's exactly how a pilot, or almost how pilots would have done it in the real world. And you're not just having to mess around with those default GPS.
And you can have that experience for like $15 to $50 on P3D, whereas the product you mentioned, I can have it for free, again, up to maybe $50, $60 on X-Plane. I would say if you're on X-Plane, start for free. And if you're on FSX, just try one of those packages.
I mean, I highly recommend the Quality Wing 757. I think it is an old product, but I think for $15, if you're really just starting out with payware quality airplanes, I think $15 is a great starting point. And again, once you've learnt that FMC in a 7.5, they're all very sort of similar in the Boeings, so you can.
It's similar in the Boeings, also the Airbus. If you think about, if you get X-Plane and sit down in the Zebo and learn how the FMC works, if you've never messed with one before and you start to understand the philosophy behind how everything gets set up, you can jump in an Airbus and in a fair amount of time figure out how it's done in an Airbus and you're good to go. So if you are new to X-Plane and new to all that, start out with the Zebo, figure out how flight FMCs work, figure out how performance is factored into all that, and then maybe purchase a payware Airbus or maybe one of the 757s from Flight Factor or the 767. That way, it's less time sitting there being frustrated and more time just all right, sit on the ground for a few minutes, figure it all out, and then go flying. I think there's good ways in both sims to do it cheap to nothing to learn how to get everything set up and then move on to what you're really wanting. And if you're a Boeing only guy, X-Plane, it's easy money. You buy the sim and you're done.
Yep, free. So there we go. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight if you're sort of new into flight sim or looking to expand a little bit more into the payware kind of side of it. So hopefully that gave you a few ideas.
Well, thank you for the topic, William. Much appreciated.
No problem.
So that was basically our main topic for this episode. I want to go in on something very X-Plane specific. So if you're not an X-Plane user, this is probably not for you. So I'll try to keep it short. But I want to rant a little bit about a product that is so in beta and has never really been sold as a beta in a way. Well, kind of, but not really. And it was dead for a while and so on and so forth. So this is also something we want to do still in beta, just really talk about products that have maybe huge potential, but just never came out of beta, or they just disappear for a while. Just as a little bit of a warning, if you're on the fence of buying them or looking at them in general, and you say, oh, this looks good, but you should know a little bit about the history maybe, or what the problems are, so that you have a bit more material to make your decision. And the product in question I want to talk about is xEnviro for xEnplane. Yeah, as you know, xEnplane is not exactly famous for snow. The clouds are a bit basic. I would even go out on a limb and say the clouds haven't really changed all that much since xEnplane 7, or at least xEnplane 8. So sometimes they're really a bit annoying, and in general, the environment needs more work. Well, 11 did a lot of remodeling on the planes, and definitely the world looks a lot better. It's still, when I look back at an older version of xEnplane, it never really took off, let's say it like this. So back when xEnplane 11 came out, xEnviro came out. I think, no, actually it came out before. It came out xEnplane 10 towards the end of its life. And it looked really good. It added clouds, it added sort of atmospheric scattering and that kind of stuff. And then xEnplane 11 came along, and yeah, we do an update. And I think it maybe was a very early version of 11, and then it just disappeared basically. So you ended up with a $70 product that was basically still in beta, didn't work on a new simulator, and you heard nothing from the developer other than promises. I remember back at the day, I even tried Facebook for a while, which I don't know why. And I've seen them posting pictures of their development work, and I'm like, oh, cool, maybe we get there. And then nothing for month and month. So I completely gave up on these $70, which I may only have been using for months or so, and they disappeared.
Well, you do surprise me that a product for Flight Simulator was so expensive and still in beta.
Yeah, okay. So this is the early rant for this. Now, they did come back with a relatively big splash. They added these clouds you see in FS 2020.
What, they charge $90?
No, it's still $70, and you get the free upgrades when you bought it like back then. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. And it did work for a while. Again, still in beta. It did add snow to xEnplane.
Oh, wow.
The interesting part was the snow was in LAX.
And yet Austin was still like a desert.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this was a settings thing, but come on. I mean, the only value you really need to look at as a developer is the temperature. Is it below freezing? It could be snowing. Is it 25 C or whatever, like 70 Fahrenheit or whatever that is? It's probably not going to be snowing. It's as simple as that. But somehow these obvious mistakes always seem to be overlooked.
xEnplane does have a bit of an aversion to snow.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that product is back. Then it worked for a bit. Then xEnplane updated, and it sort of didn't work anymore. It just crashed on me all the time. I think other people had the same problem, not all of them. So again, beta-ish product. And the next problem is you may load the wrong aircraft, and all of a sudden everything looks weird, and the textures go all funky and epilepsy and all that kind of stuff. So this is a product I don't want to talk about it for too long. I just want to say it looks very good when you look at the videos. It looks very good on the screenshots, and it can be really good. just know I don't think it's finished. It has a very long roadmap, and it has known issues, lists, and whatever. I would say if you want this, wait if it's even necessary in Explain 12, who knows? Because the development pace is so slow, it might be finished by the time Explain 14 is released. That's my rant about this product. I'm sorry towards the developers. I know you're sometimes stuck and doing your best anyway, but seriously, for $70, this is an expensive product, and it worked maybe 10% of the time since I had it. And that should not be.
If you're going to have an experimental product, then have an experimental price to reflect it. Charge a little bit less. I think that's a fair ask. If you've gone to that much trouble to develop something, fair enough. Don't make it free. Certainly don't expect people to pay huge amount of money for a product that is not yet finished or even working.
But I got to give it to Flight Factor on this one with the A320 again. When this was announced, shortly afterwards, there was a public beta program. They made it very clear you can join. There's a limited amount of spots available. And if you want to contribute to it, that would be great. So you got it for a little bit less. You had it very clearly written all over the place. It's a beta product. And if you had issues with it, you could report on that. That's great. That's wonderful. I'm sure that made the product a lot better than Flight Factor just doing their usual, oh, we do this and then we release it and then we notice all the problems thing. No, they did it right on this one, but it was a beta. You got it a little cheaper, as you said. Good idea. But not everybody does that. Yeah. Let's not.
No, it's usually quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Very much the opposite.
Well, I love paying a lot of money to test somebody else's thing out. It's like, how does that work?
But
like,
then just fix it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, oh, well, it's one thing to beta test something, but then to pay to beta test something, and then it doesn't work, and it just never works out. And I can think of a few developers, which I'm not ready to do any name shaming just yet, but actually, I'll go on. I'll get to my point in a minute after you're done.
Well, I am basically done. I just want to say, xEnviro, be aware that it may be a bit of a complicated product. Very complicated relationship between you and the product.
And that's what you want to buy. Something that you have a hard time with.
Yeah. You have to be willing to really take the risk. And it doesn't really say, well, we stop development for a year every now and then it's not compatible with the latest simulator. Tough luck.
None of your time fixing and none of your time actually enjoying it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you need to upgrade for all the aircraft you want to use, all the sceneries you want to use, and then your weather or snow or whatever you wanted is gone. Bad.
Yeah. How do you not put snow in a flight sim? I still don't understand how we don't have snow by default. I don't get it. Like I get it. It. For some reason, it got skipped during the development phase. I don't know how you miss seasons and weather in flying, because I'm pretty sure if I'm up in the northeast of the United States during the wintertime, it's going to be a little bit different than being down in the southwest. But for some reason, in X-Plane, you generally feel like you feel like you're in the same place all the time, minus maybe some clouds, which there's great freeware out there for clouds too. If you look up Q8 Pilot, he had a great video he made on how you can modify X-Plane, sky textures, cloud textures, and many things for free. He gets all the links in there, but he explains how to do it and what they look like and everything. And you can really change your view of X-Plane inside of the sim. But still, when you buy something, you shouldn't have to mod the hell out of it to just get it to be looking good, in my opinion. But yeah, I agree.
And this is a topic that has been current since, I got into X-Plane with version 7. It was a topic during the entire lifespan of version 8, 9. In 10, we were supposed to maybe see some snow, actually like 3D snow building up and all that. I remember these promises. And nothing happened. Then there was 11. Oh, do we get snow? No snow. And it still looks like 10, just with better effects. Yay.
Well, it's probably because that's what it was. I'm not a developer, and I don't know the full lineage of X-Plane, but if they just buttered it up a bit and then re-released it,
a few textures. It is as simple as say, if temperature below 0, use a different texture file. It cannot be that resource intensive to do that.
Even Flight Simulator 2002 had snow.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, well, X-Plane's currently so hell bent on getting their mobile version working right. That I think some of the PC has taken a back seat in some respects. Unfortunately, I see more. But then I guess that's the user community, because every time X-Plane posts, and oh god, does this grind my gears? Every time X-Plane posts something about the PC version, you have a mob of people in the comments. Well, what about the mobile version? When are we getting this for the mobile version? Like, you know what? You guys have got your mobile version, and there's a thread for that. Stay the hell out of my thread. Leave you. I want to, I want the PC version to work. All right. If you want the you're getting plenty of development, people. Plenty. You're getting all the same
PC
shit
version
we
still
got.
isn't working. We need to finish that before we do the mobile version.
Oh my god, the mobile version, yeah. That's a separate channel, separate video all on its own. Seriously, I mean, the mobile version is more or less like a game. The PC version, yeah, while a game, it's also a little bit more. It's a sim. It's
Yeah.
something in between something serious and a game, and that just needs a little bit more refinement, maybe. Something that runs on an iPad to me is nothing but an ad platform. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's right. It's cool to have a mobile version to go play around with when you're sitting in a lobby somewhere waiting on something or whatever. And I get that. That's fine.
Read a
But
book.
well, that's 2020. We don't read books.
Check your Instagram.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
God. Who uses Instaface?
all right. My topic then. Am I allowed to rant now? Because if I
rant.
don't start ranting, I'm gonna.
You're at it since
I can
15
feel
minutes.
the anger building in you.
Yeah, because that angers me when I have to deal with it. Just nonsense. All right. So my topic was
Okay,
to be.
time for the ads.
Oh yeah. My
Okay, off you
topic
go.
was hastily thrown together for paint kits for airplanes, particularly that of X-Plane. I don't know too much about the P3D world when you buy PMDG. I've seen their
Oh,
paint
don't
kits;
get me
they look pretty
started.
good, but I don't know about every P3D FSX developer what kind of paint kits they include, if any. Which brings me to my
Aerosoft.
point: if you are going to make an airplane, you got to assume, and I'm just going out on a limb here, but you would want to assume that somebody's going to want to put a livery on it. Am I right? I mean,
Yes.
you don't fly around in white, gray airplanes, whatever. I mean, you usually have something on it. Well,
Generally.
generally, and sometimes they release some liveries on it already. Sometimes the big, you know, the big airlines,
Yeah.
You usually get like a handful of liveries with it. That's pretty much it. Usually.
and that's fine.
Sometimes
I'm
more.
okay with that. I can't expect them to put every paint that exists out there on there, and who knows who
No.
wants what. No, I can't expect that. However, I do expect the ability to paint the damn thing that I just bought. I usually paint the aircraft for either my VA or I help out with metros or whatever. And there's plenty of people out there that paint whatever they want and release it for the community. In fact, there's some great painters out there that's what they do. They'll take a model and just throw every paint on it that they can think of and do. And that's great. But if you don't have a paint kit for it or any ability, I mean, even a blank white livery is a good starting
Yes,
point.
it's a starting point, but it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. If how did you paint it, developer? Did you use anything in particular? If you did, why don't you share it with us? If you didn't,
Nice little story
put something
about
together.
that. One of the aircraft that's currently under development for X-Plane, there was a bit of a thread going on about, will there be a paint kit? And the developer said no. And we basically asked, why not? How do you paint it? And he said he paints it in the 3D program, but for that you need the source model, which is not included in the package because, I mean, you can't really do that. And that's a bit annoying, but I also understand where he's coming from. He doesn't even have Photoshop because he's never using it.
Well, and I get painting in a 3D modeling program. Jesus, I wish I could do that. In most cases, it'd be so much easier if you could just paint the airplane, not paint it in pieces and put it together. But if you're going to sell an airplane for $90, $100, even 60, whatever, one, you've got to assume that because you're making something, somebody's going to want to paint it. And two, if you're spending a lot of money, charging a lot of money rather, have some support and do that just so that we don't have to fight and figure out how to do it ourselves. I think that's just the right thing to do for the fact that you're making it for the main reason for people to fly it for their favorite airline. that they want on the side of it.
I don't think it matters how much the product costs. If you're developing a product, then you need to have a paint kit for it. Say people are going to want to fly
Well, an aircraft
their
anyway.
airline,
Who cares about a
and
paint kit for an airport?
or their virtual airlines. They want to fly. They want to paint the planes for their virtual airlines. They want to paint fictional liveries of their favorite airline, and so you need a paint kit.
I just don't know how that gets the oversight. I don't see.
Another problem of paint kits is it's very recent that paint kits are evolving with the aircraft. So you put in hours of your life, if not a lot more, painting the perfect livery that you always dreamed of for your whatever plane. And then the developer comes along, oh, by the way, we changed the paint kit. And then you're there
There
seriously?
is an airplane. There is an airplane out there that has changed their paint kit 3 times.
Oh, I wonder
And
which one that is.
Yeah, I wonder which one that one is. And it's the one that's definitely still in beta. And the thing is, I get it. They're still redeveloping. This is my point. The airplane's $50. It was $50 the day it came out. And in that time, which has probably been about 2 years, it's still $50, by the way. I assume by the time they actually finish it, it'll be $3,000 because of all the updates they're doing to it. But the thing is, it's $50. It wasn't done when it came out. It wasn't done in the next version. It wasn't done in the version after that. And they keep re-releasing the paint kit for it. I'm like, I'm not painting this airplane anymore. I suggest that nobody in the airline
for the final
update.
version now.
Which, how far away is the final version? It's been years, and it was $50. I could see if it was, the $29.95 maybe, but it's still money. You're still spending money for something that's not nearly done, and you're gonna keep changing the paint kit on me. It's like, could you please stop that? Could you please just either don't re-release it, or here's a thought, developers, just get the shit done and then release it. Like, how hard is that?
I mean, if you have gone to all the trouble of making the airplane and modeling it and getting everything ready, that surely is the difficult part. And yet, making the paint kit is the bit they don't do. I mean, surely that is a much simpler thing to do. If the entire project that you have to do creating the airplane, surely the paint kit is one of the smallest parts.
It really depends on how your workflow is. If you, as I said, painting on the 3D model and you don't use it, then it's a really hard task because making a paint kit from scratch is not an easy task. But many developers probably just do it anyway for their own use, and so they already have it to paint it, because a model is one thing, an untextured model, doesn't really do much for the community. So you need to make these textures, and usually you end up with a paint kit of some sort. So why not release that? But that brings me to another product. I'm not going to name it for now. I just basically bought it for painting because I know it's not exactly finished, I've known the first version of the product. I know that version 2 is not exactly that much better. But I thought, okay, people are using it, I want to paint it. And then I had to request the paint kit, which isn't a big deal, but you sort of have to send an email to the developer. Yeah, can I please have the paint kit? Which is, why do I need to do this? Why isn't it just linked on the website? I got it like 10 minutes later. That's okay. But the developer also told me, yeah, but it's already outdated because the next update will change the paint kit over. And I was like, great!
Oh my god, seriously. Changing in version 2, we're getting another. In the description of the airplane you're selling, please place in there is no paint kit available for this airplane. That'll tell me right ahead of time if I need to buy this thing or not. And 2, if there is one, have a link to it so I can take a look at it before buying your airplane, so I can determine whether or not this is worth the trouble I'm about to go through. It's hard enough on a good paint kit to paint an airplane, particularly in some liveries that are complicated. At least give me an opportunity to see what's going on. This brings me to my final point about paint kits and aircraft, particularly that of X-Plane, is the airplane developers who then only sell by the livery. There's 10 versions of the airplane. They all have a different livery on them, and they're $50 a piece. You want 2 liveries? Yes. Yeah, you're gonna spend $100. Like,
and I tried painting one of these airplanes. I know exactly which ones you mean. It was an impossible job. These things are my nemesis. I was unable to do it. It was just not doable.
Is that right? Is that really the right thing to do? Is that, to me? It just seems like you're just at that point you are making a huge statement. There will be no paint kit for this airplane, and you will buy the livery you want. And if you want another one, you're going to buy it again. How in hell is that the right thing to do? And well, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Okay, that's fine. But still, the point being is you're releasing something that is completely ridiculous. That makes just makes no sense. Like it's
Deliberate money.
unfathomable.
It's just deliberate money grabbing.
Yeah, and then and on top of that, hey buddy, your airplane ain't that good. So I don't understand what makes you think you can do it that way. Like I don't. I will never buy anything you make if you're gonna treat the community like that. It's just not right. It's just wrong. So that's my take on the whole paint kit situation. Please release one with your airplane. If you're not going to, at least state you don't have one instead of me having to scour the internet. And God bless you folks out there who make the unofficial paint kits and they actually work. I really appreciate that. Because when the developer doesn't do it, at least somebody else does.
Yeah, and it's a
Hero.
huge task to do it. It's definitely not easy, especially if you have a layered one and not just white paint. That's not
Right.
easy.
That's my take. Anyways, back to
There
you.
we go.
So
That's
yeah, we talked about something useful in the beginning for most people. We talked about something weather style only useful to explain people, and then went on about paint kits, which probably talks to 3 people.
But hopefully you will find something in amongst that was useful and useful to you for your endeavors in flight simulation.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth it exploring flight simulation. I mean, we do a lot of ranting about it because we love it, definitely. And
Definitely.
there's just so much to see, and our goal is to really just make sure that you know what you're getting into every now and then. And that's why we name some products which are maybe very good, like William did. I named one which is a bit questionable, and about the paint kits, well, we're just people. We're frustrated sometimes, so we need to talk about it. I hope it wasn't too frustrating for you guys.
I think anybody who has ever painted an airplane or any virtual airline who does that, so they understand and they get it, and their frustrations are there. They got to be relatively the same.
Yeah, that's true.
I
And
can
it's
hear
actually
that
quite a
bashing.
lot of people who do painting. The more I got into it, the more people I met who are actually quite capable of painting fantastic liveries. And they all know the problems. I mean, why on earth is it necessary to split a tail into 4 parts? Seriously, why?
As much as I love the MD-80, I believe they got their airplane up to 5 different pieces to
Oh my
paint the
goodness.
fuselage.
Yeah.
Which, I don't rag on too much about those guys. They do a really good job, so I get it. But at least they released something that you can work with. Uh, Again, I guess not to end on a negative note in regards to all that and somewhat positive. A lot of airplanes do come with stuff you can work with. If you're just a flight simmer anyway who doesn't care because you don't paint airplanes, you just fly them, well, it doesn't really concern you. But when you download a livery, just remember somebody put a lot of hard work into that. So that's why the frustration's there.
Wasn't quite as easy as you might think.
Amen. Yeah.
No.
So if you've made it this far, thank you. We plan for our next episode, which hopefully will be the week after. Do you know? We're going to look
Still in
at some
beta.
of the. We're going to look at some products which are still in beta in a little bit more depth and sort of vent a few more of our frustrations about that. So hopefully,
Or
you can
just tell you about great things that are coming. Who knows? So you better tune in next week or next time we release something, which we try to do regularly.
Is there anything good actually coming?
We'll see next week. Okay, thanks so much for listening / watching. Like it, subscribe, and well, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
See you on the next one.
time.